What would I like to see change in 40k? I answer this and more in this month's Q&A. Nick speaking, and welcome to this video. And if you're new to the channel and you want to keep up to date with the Wonders of Warhammer 40k, then please subscribe and hit the bell button so you don't miss an upload. Okay, so Q&A time. This is the video where I answer your questions from the previous Q&A. First of all though, I've got a question for you. It's rumoured that Chapter Approved at the end of the year is going to see a Necron points reduction. If this happens, do you think that it's going to solve Necron problems? Let me know in the comments box below, and whilst you're there, don't forget to ask me another question for next month's Q&A. Okay, so here we go. The first question is from Ryan A, and he says, are you much of a fisherman or an outdoor man in general? Not at all, Ryan. I've actually never been fishing, never wished to go fishing, and to be fair, I like the indoors much better. I'm definitely an indoors man. If it's a nice sunny day, I'm happy to go out, quite enjoy like a walk on the beach and things, but I don't strive to be outside all the time. No, not at all. Thanks for the question though. Next is from Shameless Soul. What is the one army you've always had an interest in collecting but never took the plunge? Well, I'm going to say Orcs for this one. Orcs are a fun army. I really enjoy painting the models. I have painted a few Orcs. However, my buddy plays Orcs, so I haven't sort of stepped on his toes, and also I'm not sure I've got enough time to paint a massive Horde army, and also to play that army. I'm not sure really Horde is my thing, but yeah, Orcs would be that army. Next is a question from Wayne Catlin, and he says, 46, you look good, mate. Question, what's the secret for your youthful appearance? Thank you, Wayne. I have always looked about 5 years younger than I am, luckily. I think my secret, well, I don't drink alcohol, very rarely. I don't smoke. I don't really go in the sun that much. So those are probably the main things. But also, I would say my other secret is that when I wash my face, like in the morning, etc., is I don't use any soap or products. So I literally just wash my face with water. And maybe that helps, I don't know. But yeah, that is my secret. Okay, thanks for the question. Next is from Bazza from Underdog Painting, and he says, I see a lot of people using green screens in their video and was wondering, would you ever use one or just keep to the posters behind you? That's a very good question, Bazza. The answer is no, I wouldn't want to use a green screen. I don't actually like the look of videos with green screens, to be honest. I like a more natural setting. I've done the best in the room that I've got with the posters and stuff on the back there, trying to keep my videos look and feel as if it is literally just me in my hobby room. And I think maybe, although green screens you could maybe go a bit more professional, you've got to have a good setup with how you set your lighting up and stuff, and I don't really have that much room in this room. So but also, as I said, I don't like the look necessarily of green screen videos. I like a little bit more sort of natural looking, let's say. Good question though, Bazza, thank you for that. Next question is from Spekd, and he says, if you had to play Age of Sigmar, what army would you play? This is a good question. I've had this before. It's going to be a very difficult choice for me because from the old fantasy days, I like the Lizard Men. I'm not sure what their new name is, but the Lizard Men, they look really cool. However, now Age of Sigmar has some absolutely fantastic looking models. So if I were to start Age of Sigmar, I'm going to have a serious look at the model range to work out which army to go for. But at the moment, my sort of instant answer is going to be the Lizard Men, or whatever their new name is. Thank you for the question. Next question is from John Bonney. He says, just checking out the microphone on. I hate recording with no microphone on. Okay, and he says, I hope this isn't a question that you have already answered before, but between 7th and 8th edition, which edition did you find it easier to balance out your lists, and which edition did you feel the units were able to survive better in? Also, do you believe that trying to include at least 1 or 2 canoptic units in a list is more for casual games, or can they be included in tournament lists? Why or why not? So yeah, great questions, John. Thank you for those. So, in terms of list building, 7th edition I found was a lot easier. You had the Decurion, which had some great units sort of within that range. The main units which I used to use, definitely more survivable with that 4+ RP. And yeah, I think 7th edition on the whole was just easier. I'm still getting my head around the 8th edition detachments. Whenever I start a list, I always find myself looking at a HQ and 2 troops and going from there, but obviously it is totally different now. So if you want battalion, it's HQ and 3 troops to start with. So definitely easier for 7th edition. And survivable, I think they are more survivable. They were more survivable in 7th edition with the 4+ RP. Now in terms of canoptic units in a list, are they more for casual games? I think no, not at all, because I think one of the key units and almost must-have units now in 8th edition is the Scarab Swarms, just to combat Smite. You know, you need them. So I would say they're actually more of an essential unit. Whether you'd want to run a whole army with just canoptic units where you don't have any RP, that's another story, but I think you definitely need Scarabs in your list. And to be fair, where Scarabs you can take in units of 3 are a good way to help you build up an army list, and you know, because they're just so expensive at the moment. So Necrons are just so expensive, so having Scarabs, being able to take them in small units of 3 can help you build up some of those detachments. Okay, so next question is from Old Average Brit Gaming, and he says, do you think that Orc players in general are very annoying on social media? Every post in big channels gets hijacked, every open poll gets a silly Orc answer, every new vehicle gets a looted reply, and so on. I understand the Orc background obviously, but no other faction fan goes so over the top online and translates their fandom in real life to their online life in such a way in almost every post I see. That's a good question. I think the answer is no. I don't really see that. I don't see that many Orc posts. I think it happens in every faction, doesn't it, surely? When I'm on the Necron Facebook group, and there's some heated discussions on there about Necrons and how not so good they are at the moment. Probably not to the same extent maybe that what you're thinking about in terms of bringing, what did you say? Oh yeah, bringing the Orc background fan factions go so over the top. Probably not like that, but I don't really see that, Nick. No. All players are generally alright from what I've seen. Okay, thank you for that question though. Next, actually, talking of Orcs, is from 6+ Steveo. He says, I know you have touched on it before and done some videos with advice for wargaming YouTubers, and the unification group is a fantastic source of help. But do you plan on making a playlist in the future covering advice and help in regards to creating wargaming YouTube videos? Could you cover everything from thumbnails? You could cover everything from thumbnails to content. I know you have a wealth of knowledge that a lot of people out there could draw on. Who knows, the next viewer could be tomorrow's big channel. Thanks, Steve. It's a good question, and I have thought of it, I have considered it, but I have made videos before, like you say, but I think I want to stick with just the wargaming side. So I decided not to do that. However, yeah, I'm more than happy obviously to throw any information out in the Unification Facebook group. I suppose it's sort of half about that anyway, as well as obviously sharing all of your wargaming hobby stuff. It's also the sort of YouTube side, so I'll probably just stick with it in there rather than making a series of videos on it. I think because, you know, channel focus and everything is obviously quite important when running a YouTube channel, so I probably won't do that. Thanks for the question though, Steve. So next question is from Joshua Swann, and he says, how would you recommend painting black armour? I just did a tank for my very British Civil War fascists and semi-happy with my scheme for a small tank, but I've got a huge tank lined up which I want to look like a centrepiece. Any tips? It's a good question. So when I first started painting black, in actual fact I still do it that way because it helps match in with the army. I was just dry brushing it with just grey, and that's how I do my Aldar or their guns, etc. They're just dry brushed grey over the top of black. However, when I do my Space Wolves, I do go to the next level, I suppose, and I just edge highlight, but I do two edge highlights. So I use the Ishin grey, which is like quite a dark grey, and then I use the Dawnstone grey to do some of the sort of extreme edge highlights. Now if I wanted to take that to the next level, I could do another edge highlight, maybe with the Administratum grey, just to really make those edges pop. However, that's still only on a straight black paint, so I suppose arguably you could build up the actual flat sections of black, going up with some lighter greys, but I've never really done that, and I haven't felt the need for that, mainly because my black is usually on Space Marines and they generally on the whole benefit from edge highlighting. On a tank, I think probably, yeah, I'd just say edge highlighting really. I have a funny feeling that you've already painted the tank now, and it came out really well, so if that was the tank you're talking about, then you did a great job anyway. So yeah, if you haven't seen Joshua Schwann's, no, not Sean Connery, if you haven't seen Joshua Swann's channel, go and check him out. Young lad, I've been watching him since he was a kid doing his channel, and he's going, I think he's going to uni, or he's at uni, and yeah, he's doing a great job, and his painting come on tremendously, so check him out. Link for everyone is in the description below. Right, the next question is from Brush and Quill, and he says, what is the colour that you struggle with the most when painting, and would you do an army in that colour to improve, or just avoid it? He's got another question, let's answer that one. So, what colour do I struggle with? Don't know that I really struggle with any particular colour. I've not done non-metallic metals yet, probably because I actually think the normal metallic metals look really good, so I haven't really felt the need to it, but I suppose that is something which I need to maybe have a go at. Would I do a whole army in it? Probably not, but I might pick a single model if I'm painting a single model and just maybe have a go at it. But I don't know if I struggle with it because I've never done it, but I imagine I would, because it is quite a hard thing to do. He also says, what rules or limitations would be in a IDIC 40k tournament? That is a very good question. I am actually thinking about next year, I will be on YouTube for 10 years in September, and I was thinking about having a celebration event of some description, possibly even a little tournament, you know, something fun, nothing hard hitting, but yeah, what restrictions? So first of all, I definitely wouldn't have any Forge World in my tournament, because I think I just don't like Forge World in tournaments, to be fair, because I think it's unfair, especially for people who can't necessarily afford Forge World, and some armies get better Forge World stuff than others, and I just think it makes the 40k even more unbalanced. So I'd say no Forge World. I would, if it was going to be my little event and it was going to be just a fun little event, then I would probably say single faction. So just to keep things fun and maybe sort of keep the playing field a little bit more level, and I think that could work quite well. But that would only be if it was just a little fun get-together event. If it was a proper tournament, I probably wouldn't make that restriction. But I think I would definitely have no Forge World. Thanks for the questions. Okay, next is from Graeme Collin with my obligatory Star Trek question. He says, Patrick Stewart returning as Picard in his own new series. Thoughts? Excellent. I mean, anything that involves Star Trek has to be really good. I love it. Anything that keeps Star Trek alive, keeps the franchise alive, is awesome. And I think it's going to be fun. Obviously, they're going in a different direction with this series, so it's, I think it's going to be interesting. Yeah, I'll obviously definitely be watching it. Next question is Braden W Hickman. And yes, I am cupping my coffee. It's actually quite cold in here with just a t-shirt on, and my heating isn't currently turning on. I've got to sort that out. Anyway, Braden, he says, you know what's worse than Blood Angels? Their successor chapter, the Lamenters. It's probably a bit of a myth, really, but obviously I act as if I hate Blood Angels, but I don't necessarily. It's just that I played against Blood Angels a lot, and it's fun saying, you know, dirty Blood Angels, but I have nothing against them. Their successor chapter, yeah, that's the yellow ones, isn't it? Yeah. I don't necessarily dislike any particular army, to be fair. You do build up a hate for some particular units. The more you play against them and the more you hate them, or the more you lose to them, the more you hate them. I remember building up a massive hatred for Thraka back in 5th edition, where he was almost impossible to kill. But yeah, there's no particular armies actually that I dislike that much. Next is from Justin from Basic Miniature Painting. He says, what size feet do you have? And trainers or shoes? That's a good question. I'm laughing because my instant answer is I'm size 11, but that's not actually the truth. So when I was young, about 14, I came home from school one day and I thought, for whatever reason, I'd put my bag down on the floor and I decided to jump over it. I had no shoes on. I jumped over it, just a bag, wasn't particularly high, just like that much. And I jumped over it and somehow, I'm not sure how, but I landed with my toes underneath me, like that. And on my big toe, I pulled back the skin and ripped. Oh, it was just, I had blood everywhere. Anyway, this accident caused me a problem for many years. I got an infection. It was absolute disaster. It took years to heal. I had ingrowing toenails on both sides. And then in the end I had to have an operation where they laser the outside of the toenail so it doesn't grow. So if you look at my toe, I've only got like a centre section of the toenail. And yeah, I had years of agony and pain just from that one stupid thing. Since then I've always had shoes one size bigger than I actually need, because I needed that room for my bad toe. and that has stuck with me. I'm actually shoe size 10, but I always get 11s, although I'm trying to be a little bit better now. So sometimes I go for a 10.5 if those shoe sizes are around. So yeah, that's the answer. I'm size 11, but I'm not. I'm probably size 10. In terms of trainers or shoes, I have both. I have no preference really. I suppose trainers, you could say, I like those walking boots, the Carrymore walking shoes, because they tend to have a thicker sole, and they're more comfortable for walking in. So yeah, that's my answer. Next question is from Leon T66. And Leon says, Necrons are a good army for club games, but I feel they need a point reduction on some units to make them more competitive. Which units would you reduce in points cost to make the army work better and be more competitive? Actually, I think this is the question I pretty much just asked you guys. I think it would be great to say an army-wide points reduction. I mean, that would work. The main problem that we have, or one of the problems, is building battalions. Necron warriors at 13 points each and immortals at 17 points each. It's probably, considering how the RP etc that they have, you know, they're not exactly expensive. However, they just go down so quickly, and I think we need something sorted out. I mean, I think those two units coming down in points would definitely help us build those battalions. Potentially scarab swarms as troops would help as well, because you can have those in smaller units of 3 that would help build our battalions like other armies do, getting those extra command points. But ultimately I think an army-wide points reduction would definitely help. I was talking to this with Ace Face, and my tournament army, I was very happy with my tournament army, but I think ideally if everything was a bit cheaper, it would be great to have those additional, say 3 units of warriors in the list, just to give me those scoring troops to stay on objective etc, while the rest of the army, you know, did what it needed to do. And I think the only way to do that is to have a general points reduction. So I think that's really what I think we could do with a general points reduction. Some units are obviously in drastic points reduction need, the monolith for example, but I think a army-wide points reduction really is needed. And our troops choices as well, they're not particularly cheap if you compare them to other armies. So I think, you know, a points reduction on the troops on the HQs would really help us again for building those battalions. So yeah, just a general points reduction, I would say. Next is from Dmcdraws, and he says, have you ever played Dungeons and Dragons or any other RPG? If so, what did you think of it? If no, would you consider giving it a try under the right circumstances? So I've never played an RPG, Dungeons and Dragons or any other, mainly because I've never really had a gaming group that's done it, and I started this hobby quite late in life. I was 30 when I started, so I never went through that teenage thing of playing these type of games. Would I consider it? Potentially. I mean, I definitely wouldn't want to collect it. If I, like most other games apart from 40k, if I have a friend that maybe has it, and they invite me to one of their nights, I might have a go just to experience it and play it. But I don't have any particular interest in doing it at all really. 40k is enough for me, basically. A great question though. So the next one is from Who Took My Dice Miniature Wargaming, and he says, what would you like to see change in 40k? This is a really good question. What would I like to see change? So I'm sort of half thinking that 40k without mortal wounds would be a better 40k. Mortal Wounds is what, in terms of like top level, Mortal Wounds is where everyone wants to hone their lists around, and not everyone can do that many Mortal Wounds. I mean, look at Necrons, we don't really have that much, apart from obviously the Vault and a couple of, I think there's a weapon, isn't there, that can do it in the artifacts, and you've got Imitate the Stormlord who does the storm, brings a storm, that's got a few Mortal Wounds, but we haven't got much Mortal Wound stuff. Some armies get a lot more. I think there could be something maybe like Mortal Wounds, but not quite as harsh to it, and it's almost like the power gain, or the power creep of 40k, which we've always had in the past, where you had invulnerable, you had no save, you had like just a normal save, and then they brought in the invulnerable save, and they brought in weapons that ignore the invulnerable save. Now we've got like Mortal Wounds, and now there's saves that you can have, like disgusting resilience against Mortal Wounds, and you get that power creep within the game. But I think a game of 40k without Mortal Wounds could potentially even the battlefield a bit more. What do you think? 40k with no Mortal Wounds. That would be my instant answer. I think, yeah, 40k with no Mortal Wounds. You could have, if you wanted something a bit more powerful, maybe you could have it that it takes away invulnerable saves, maybe, so you still get saves. I think it's a bit too overpowered, Mortal Wounds. So, yeah, something that sort of takes away Mortal Wounds abilities, or at least reduces them. Next question is UACowboy, and he says, would you ever play a weekend-long campaign event with your Necrons? I would, absolutely. Actually, I'd play weekend-long events with any of my armies. Why not? I think it would be great fun. I do work the weekend, so it would be organising some holiday around that event, but I would definitely be up for it. Next is from Wizzard Wargaming, and he says, if you could add another army to your collection, which one would it be? It would be Orcs, I think, because, yeah, I like Orcs. However, as I said earlier, I don't plan on collecting Orcs. Next question is from Jim White, and he says, so you are considering getting remarried in the future. Does that mean you are optimistic about your life? And then he has another question. Let's answer that one. That may have come across slightly wrong there. I'm not necessarily considering getting remarried. In actual fact, I'm told by my best friend that she's going to kill me if I get married again. And I think my mum might do the same. I am very optimistic about my life. I think you've got to be optimistic. I generally am quite a positive person who just gets on with it. But remarried, no. I mean, I did sort of say, oh, if there's going to be another, like a Mrs. IDICBeer, but that doesn't necessarily mean marriage, does it? It just means being with someone. And yeah, marriage is basically just a piece of paper, and it means absolutely nothing. Well, it doesn't mean anything to my two previous wives anyway. So, there you go, that's that question. Right, do you like the rock band Fuggett's song Third Time Lucky? I hadn't heard of it, so I googled it when you put the question down, and it's a pretty cool song. And yeah, sort of suited me quite well actually, so yeah, I quite like that. Right, next question, if I can... come on! Okay, next question is from William Kuby, and he says, have seen non-GD robot minis out there you use in your army? I do have some non-Games Workshop minis. One of my Catans is made by Master Crafted Miniatures, or any Chaos guys. Of course, I've used Spellcrow stuff in my Emperor's Children army, but I don't have any full non-GG sculpts, but quite happy to have them. Have seen the Raging Heroes Keeper of Secrets, the Greater Demon model. I have, it looks awesome. I like that one, yeah, it's very good. And you like it over the Forge World one? Yeah, I must admit, I'm not a huge fan of the Forge World Greater Demon. And no, it doesn't have anything to do with price. No, absolutely. Sometimes price doesn't really reflect which models you buy. It's down to the looks. You know, if you don't like the look of a particular one, then you know, why not buy it? Best to save up and buy a more expensive one that you do like the look of. So yeah, thanks for the question. Next is from Pete from Mini Warzone, and he says, can you remember your first model conversion? What inspired you to convert it? I can remember my first model. It was a Necron, funny enough. And my Necron army, I wanted it just like the book. So the paint scheme, and I wanted everything like the original box art, because I loved that. You know, that was what I fell in love with the Necrons. However, when it came to doing my second Destroyer Lord, I did decide to make it slightly different. So I had two different lords. After all, they were characters. In actual fact, I painted all my characters different. They're all gold, and each character has its own secondary colour. So like a blue cape, or an orange cape, or a red cape. Try to keep those characters have a little bit more, well, character. So I did do a Wraith conversion, Destroyer Lord conversion. So I used a Wraith body with this Destroyer Lord sort of torso section on the top. It looks really cool, very happy with it, and that was my first ever conversion. So next question is from Peter Nicholas, and he says, will Necron Girl be playing you at 40k, either privately or on YouTube, with her new Primaris army? Absolutely, we do plan, or I plan on recording our game. So we're going to play the First Strike missions, and I'm hoping to record them as we play them. So yeah, definitely watch that out. Hopefully there'll be another First Strike update coming soon on the channel, because we have been painting. Next question's from BEERANID 40k. Have you ever visited the US? If so, where? If not, is there a place you'd like to visit here? I've never visited the US, and if I was going to visit, I've always said I'd love to go to White Plains, New York, because I would absolutely love to play Fritz 40k, or Wargamer Fritz as he's now known. I've always wanted to play Fritz ever since I've been a fanboy of his, and I just think it'd be an awesome experience just to you know, hang out and game with Fritz 40k. Obviously there's other YouTubers in America that also I would like to hang out with, but yeah, I'm going to say White Plains, New York. I've no idea where that is. I think it's, well, obviously it's around New York, but I think it's quite far out from like sort of the New York centre. But yeah, that's what I'm going to say. White Plains, New York. Okay, so next is from Jamie Searle, and he says, how often do you play with armies that aren't Necrons? Do you ever ally different forces at M? I don't do allies at all. I totally disagree with it, to be honest with you. Ever since it came out in, when did it come out? 6th edition, I think. No. That's my codex. I want to play with my codex. I don't want to mix and match and... No. I played allies once, but that was with like a pairs game. I played me and my son. I played Space Wolves. He played Space Marines, but that was just so we could pair up. But I've never played my armies as an ally army. I disagree with it. Don't like it. And one faction for me. That will do me. So what else did you say? Sorry. How often do you play with armies that aren't Necrons? Often, although not in 8th edition, but before 8th edition, I used to play a different army every week. So more fun for my buddy who I play against, so we've always got different armies. But I used to rotate the armies. But in 8th edition, not so much, because list building seems to be harder in 8th edition. Everything's changing so rapidly in 8th edition, and excuse me, and I've been faction focusing on Necrons for the YouTube channel as well, so I haven't played so many different armies. However, now my tournament is out of the way, I do plan on getting my Eldar and my Tyranids on the table a bit more. So yeah, excuse me. So yeah, I have no issues about playing different armies at all. Right, next question is from Frost and Fist, and this is from Methos. And he always gives me very difficult questions, so I'm expecting nothing different here. As a newfound worshipper of Slaanesh, which Star Trek crew would you bring with you as you, corrupting them with your Slaaneshi ways? 7 and 9 makes a strong argument for Voyager. Yes. As a newfound worshipper of Slaanesh, which Star Trek crew would you bring with you, corrupting them with your Slaanesh ways? 7 9. Right. Which Star Trek crew would I bring with me? Yeah, I would say the Voyager crew. I think because it's my favourite series, out of all the series, and like you say, with the Borg, I suppose. No, actually, I think you're going a different way with 7 of 9, aren't you? Yeah. Yeah, 7 of 9, definitely. Let's move swiftly on. Yeah. Okay. Glass Half Dead. He says, which is your least favourite 40k army in both lore and gameplay? I can't really comment on lore because I just don't really do the lore. And I certainly haven't read all the lore for all of the armies, so I can't answer that one. But in terms of the faction army, I'm going to say Imperial Guard, because for me it's not very sci-fi, and it just doesn't seem to fit with 40k humans in 40k. Just in my mind's eye, I like the science fiction of the game. Probably why I like the Xenos more than anything. So yeah, I'm going to say Imperial Guard, my least favourite 40k army. Next is from Joshua Dorie, and he says, with the new Necron Titan coming out, would you reconsider getting Forge World? Okay, so I don't think it's going to be a Titan, is it? It's going to be obviously a big construct, but I don't think it's a Titan. I think it's more of an Imperial Knight equivalent. Reconsider Forge World. I have Forge World, I have a Pylon. One of the reasons why I don't have much Forge World stuff is because of course, the cost, but not so much that, but the main reason is I don't really have the gaming environment where I could use Forge World much. You know, I play one buddy, although he hasn't played for a while, he's still doing his house, hopefully that will finish soon. But I play him once a week, and he plays Blood Angels, and if I brought like Tesseract arcs and stuff to the table, I think it'd just be unfair. But I have nothing against Forge World, and I think if I want to be the #1 Necron channel, I think I have to get the new construct. So I am saving my pennies, and I think I'm just going to pre-order it as soon as it comes up. Hopefully it won't be ridiculously expensive. But yeah, I have nothing against Forge World Necrons, but that's the reason why I sort of don't have that many. So next question is from AndreasPeahc, and he says, what do you think of the new Slaanesh Fiends that Games Workshop have previewed? I personally love them. Yes, they look absolutely awesome. I do really like them. They're very nicely painted and they're very nicely showcased. But those miniatures look absolutely fantastic. I must admit, I do really like them. So the next question is from TheGigaSlayer, and he says, what are some changes you would like to see in 8th edition as a whole? I think the recent changes to CP farming and deep striking were very positive, although I'm sure more could be done to make turn 1 a bit less decisive. Keep up the good work. Thank you, TheGigaSlayer. That's a good question. Similar to the one I had before, but yeah, let's address the new FAQ. So I think, although obviously it does affect some of our units, like Wraiths, excuse me, I think the new fly special rule not working in anything but the movement phase is probably a positive thing, because yes, it's a disadvantage to our Wraiths, but I think on the whole, having the disadvantage to your enemy is probably going to be more prudent for those things that do fly and assault, like Magnus, etc. So I think that's positive. The CP farming thing, when I was using Imatech, and I think on the whole it's good. It's a shame that our only thing to getting more CPs, because we find it so hard to make battalions, has been nerfed. It's a shame, but not many people were using Imatech anyway. Yes, I think it's a good rule. I think from the tournaments that I went to, I think it was, yeah, I would say pretty much every army I faced was able to get CPs back. So I think limiting to 1 is good. I think that's definitely positive. And I think the new stratagem where you get the cover save in the open for 2 command points, I think that's a good stratagem. However, at the tournament I didn't see anyone use it. I didn't use it, maybe because I only had 5 CPs, and I spoke to Ace and Richard, and they didn't see anyone use it either. So that was 15 games that no one used it. That's probably because A, maybe they forgot, or B, because 2 CPs is a bit expensive. I'm thinking, how about as a standard rule, if you don't go first, you get that +1 save, the cover save basically, in the open. It's not +1 to cover if you're in cover anyway. But I think, yeah, I think maybe if you go second, you should automatically get, without any CPs, a cover save in the open, just to help things a bit. So maybe that as an answer. Yeah, that's going to be my answer. Okay, so that is all the questions, and if you have a question for me, pop it down in the comments box below and I'll answer it in the next Q&A. Beam me up!